I like to think I know things. So, my favorite game to play is Trivial Pursuit. My favorite game show on TV is Jeopardy! I like going and tearing stuff apart in my garage, trying to figure out how it works. In fact, my favorite website is a website called How Stuff Works. I like Google Maps. I look up things on Google Maps all the time just because I like to know where things are. For example, I've never been to New York City, but I've studied the geography of New York City on Google Maps so much, I can tell you where lots of things are. If I ever get there, I won't get lost because I know where things are. I like to know things. I think that's a good thing. We often approach the Bible with that attitude, trying to figure out things, trying to know things, trying to sort things out, and I think that's a good approach. That's not a bad thing. I think it's good to try and know things. That's really nice. But one of the most freeing thoughts that I've ever come across, I read in a book a few years ago, and it said this: you don't have to explain everything. Not everything has an explanation. Some things just happen because they happen. We like to be able to explain why we've done what we've done. We like to be able to explain sometimes why our kids do what they do, or why this has happened at church, or why this has gone. But the fact of the matter is that life isn't as straightforward as you might hope it would be. It doesn't follow all the rules all the time really simply and straightly and cleanly. In fact, even a life of faith, as much as some people try and say, God will straighten your path and everything will be fine, that's ultimately true, but it's not true right now. And the Bible is very clear about that. We just jump over that part because we don't like it. But if you go to the big chapter of faith, Hebrews chapter 11, it talks about all the faithful people and the things that they did. Here's the ending to that chapter. Verse 35, just sort of talking about some final thoughts about faithful people. It says this in verse 35. Some women receive back their dead, raised to life again. That sounds pretty good. I like that. If it stopped right there, that'd be great, but that's not where the verse stops. Some women received their dead back, raised to life again. Others were tortured and refused to be released so that they might gain a better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging. That doesn't seem to fit. While others were chained and put in prison. They were stoned. They were sawed in two. They were put to death by the sword. And those are the faithful people. Those are the most honored people that God had. Here's the truth. Sometimes the life we live in this place where we're living isn't the way God would want them to be, and sometimes things just don't work out the way we thought they would. Sometimes you get your dead child back, raised again to life, and other times they got sawed in two by people who didn't honor what they were doing or what they were teaching. Lots of times life doesn't quite go the way we want it to, and we can drive ourselves crazy trying to figure out why. The simple answer to why, as I've already alluded, is that we're just not living in the right place. This isn't our home. Our real home is still coming. But the short answer to why is just sometimes things happen. And sometimes you don't have to explain it. Sometimes you just have to learn to say, well, that's how it went. That's the story. That's what has happened. It's freeing to not have to figure it out all the time. It's freeing to not have to have a reason all the time. It's freeing to know that even though I don't understand everything, God's still looking after me. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, beginning in verse 3, we read this. But the Lord is faithful. He will strengthen and protect you from the evil one. That's the part I need to know. The Lord is faithful. He will protect me. Ultimately, everything will be okay, even if I don't understand it right now. We sing an old hymn once in a while that says, farther along, we'll know all about it. The idea of the hymn is that when we get home, when we get to heaven, things will be clear. They're not always clear right now. So free yourself from having to figure out why all the time. Free yourself from having to be able to explain everything. And just remember and trust that it's going to be okay. The end is going to be what it ought to be. God is faithful, and He is looking after us.